sometimes incredibly awkward pictures of them together over the royal version. And I think he also thought it would help sort of redeem himself.
They called it Project Thaw, a charm offensive wrapped in silk, rehearsed smiles, and carefully staged appearances. A final attempt by Harry and Meghan to warm their way back into the royal orbit. But instead of melting the ice, they hit a wall, cold, deliberate, and unmovable. Behind the palace gates, quiet decisions were already being made, and when those gates finally shut, they didn't just close, they locked. What began as a whisper of reconciliation has turned into the most brutal royal freeze-out in modern history. While Meghan Markle was dazzling the flashbulbs in Paris, trying to spin couture into credibility, Charles and William were having their own conversation, a decisive one. No more handshakes, no more soft statements, the door is sealed. And the timing wasn't random. It came as British polling hit a historic low. Harry and Meghan sliding so far down the scale, they're now neck and neck with Prince Andrew. And when the palace smells weakness, it strikes. This isn't just another royal squabble. This is the monarchy defending its centuries-old armor against two people who thought they could charm their way back in.
Investing in a new beachside property for Meghan Markle and her mom Doria to enjoy.
There's so much to unpack here. The Paris gamble, the polling bloodbath, the quiet but ruthless move inside the palace, and the final door slam heard around the world. If you want to follow how Project Thaw went from a whispered strategy to a public execution, hit subscribe, drop a like, and stay locked in. Because what happens next is going to get colder. Project Thaw wasn't some casual gesture of reconciliation. It was a plan. A well-oiled, carefully staged campaign designed to soften the battlefield between the Sussexes and the monarchy. The whispers started months ago inside PR circles, media columns, and friendly royal insiders. Meghan and Harry, the couple who once set the palace on fire, wanted a slow, delicate re-entry. The idea was simple: repackage themselves not as rebels, but as a misunderstood royal branch ready to build bridges. But behind that gentle language sat a strategy as sharp as a blade. Selective appearances, photo ops wrapped in humility, Meghan leading the glamour push from Paris, Harry hovering just close enough to feel royal, but far enough to stay the victim in the narrative. It was supposed to feel warm, intentional, believable.
They say every secret has a keeper. And sometimes that keeper isn't a stranger, it's the person who once knew you best.
Except it never had a chance. Inside the palace, Project Thaw was never viewed as a peace offering. It was seen as a PR move, not a reconciliation. A last-ditch attempt to stay relevant in a monarchy that had already learned to live without them. And when a centuries-old institution smells desperation, it doesn't compromise. It closes ranks. Project Thaw was supposed to be a royal olive branch. But the moment the polls came in, the moment they saw just how badly the public had turned, that branch was snapped clean in two. The stage was set for a counterstrike, and Meghan's Paris move was the first big play to crumble. Paris was supposed to be her grand stage. While whispers of Project Thaw swirled quietly behind the scenes, Meghan Markle was already moving her pieces into place. Paris Fashion Week wasn't just another glamorous outing, it was the opening move. The plan was simple. Paris, unlike London, wasn't weighed down by royal baggage. It was the perfect neutral ground. Meghan could stand in front of the cameras without the shadow of the palace hanging over her shoulder. A carefully curated appearance, the right designer, the right lighting, a calculated smile that said, "I'm still relevant." Insiders say her team saw Paris as the soft entry point, charm the fashion world first, the British press second, and eventually slide back into royal conversations as if the past 5 years never happened. But this is where the strategy started to fracture. Paris glittered, yes, but London watched, and so did the palace. And for Charles and William, it didn't read as graceful re-emergence. It read as positioning, a power play dressed in couture. Even among royal watchers, the reactions were sharp. "She's not walking back in," one insider quipped. "She's trying to stage her return." What was meant to melt the ice ended up reinforcing the divide. Meghan's public image may have gotten its moment under the Paris lights, but the palace was already tightening the locks back home. Paris was the gamble, but the numbers waiting on the other side of the channel made it a losing hand from the start. While Meghan was serving Parisian glamour, the numbers back home told a completely different story. Behind the palace walls, senior courtiers had already seen the polling data, and it was catastrophic. Public trust wasn't just low, it was in free fall. For the first time since the Sussex exit, Harry and Meghan were now hovering neck and neck with Prince Andrew on the unpopularity scale. And in the British royal landscape, that's as low as it gets. Even more brutal, the anger wasn't just coming from royal loyalists, it was ordinary people. People who once sympathized with the couple now saw their actions as self-serving, performative, and, worst of all, unrelenting. A separate regional poll hit the palace like a thunderclap. Even in Sussex, the very county tied to their titles, support has withered. Some residents are openly calling for the titles to be stripped altogether. For the royal institution, that was the moment the tone shifted from cold to clinical. The palace doesn't negotiate with weakness, it eliminates it. Inside royal circles, William and Charles reportedly saw the numbers and came to the same conclusion. The public had spoken and the crown would follow their lead. If Project Thaw was the couple's olive branch, this was the axe that chopped it down.
Of Meghan watching Harry as he's giving out his award, and you can tell she is not happy.
And the timing was brutal. As the Paris headlines gushed over Meghan's dress, the British press was quietly setting fire to their comeback. Project Thaw wasn't collapsing because of one decision. It was drowning in numbers. When the palace moves, it doesn't make noise. It makes history. In the weeks leading up to Paris, behind the carefully staged press smiles and palace sources chatter, something heavier was happening inside royal walls. Charles and William made their decision. Not a pause, not a warning, a full royal freeze-out. For King Charles, this wasn't emotional. It was structural. The monarchy doesn't run on feelings. It runs on preservation. He watched the polls nosedive, the public mood harden, and Project Thaw unfold like a badly written play. The verdict was obvious. The crown doesn't need the Sussexes. William, however, brought the steel. He's the one palace insiders say is done playing games. Where Charles might have entertained diplomatic language, William reportedly pushed for finality, the kind of decision that doesn't get quietly walked back 6 months later. No more staged olive branches, no more soft family lines. The door is not just closed, it's sealed. Royal aides describe the mood as surgical. If Harry and Meghan expected slow negotiations or a soft landing, they misread the room completely. The palace wasn't waiting to see if Project Thaw worked. It was simply waiting for the right moment to slam the gates shut. And the Paris play gave them the perfect timing. While Meghan was smiling for cameras overseas, the crown executed its move in silence. Because that's how power works. It doesn't yell, it closes doors you can't open again.
Is so damn all over the place. Meghan Markle is making a new royal bid. Arians of the year.
For Meghan Markle, the Paris trip was meant to whisper elegance. For the world, it screamed something else entirely. The image flashed across social media within hours. Meghan and Harry near the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the very site tied forever to Princess Diana's final night. It was supposed to be an unspoken tribute, a soft reminder of their connection to royal tragedy. Instead, it detonated a PR bomb. The backlash was instant and unforgiving. Comments poured in from across the globe. They turned Diana's death into a photo op. This isn't a tribute, it's manipulation. That was the final straw. What they thought would be a quiet, emotional moment came off to many as cold, choreographed, and unsettlingly calculated. The internet didn't see grief, it saw a stunt. Even neutral commentators, often slow to jump into royal drama, called the move in poor taste. Inside royal circles, it was seen as confirmation of everything the palace had already concluded. Project Thaw wasn't about healing, it was about image. And if Paris Fashion Week was the soft opening of their comeback, this was the nail in its coffin. One royal aide reportedly put it bluntly, "The crown doesn't do theatrics with Diana, not anymore."
Just wake up and know which brand of medication Harry's been using. Someone had to drop that info. And
what was meant to make Meghan and Harry look closer to the royal family did the opposite. It hardened the line, it reminded the monarchy and the public just how far the Sussexes had drifted. And from that moment on, Project Thaw wasn't struggling anymore. It was dead on arrival. For years, Harry and Meghan believed they didn't need the palace. They had Netflix, Spotify, Hollywood, Oprah. They had the world's biggest stages at their fingertips, or so they thought. But the truth is finally catching up to them. Their brand doesn't exist without the crown, and Hollywood has started to notice. The Netflix deal that was supposed to reshape their image fizzled into a single headline moment. Spotify collapsed altogether, with executives allegedly calling the pair grifters behind closed doors. Production meetings have dried up. Creative projects have gone nowhere. Why? Because Harry and Meghan were marketable only as long as their story stayed tethered to Buckingham Palace. The rebellion was their brand. But once you burn the bridge and the other side stops looking back, you're just floating alone. Even Hollywood insiders are whispering that the Sussex sparkle is fading. Their star power is no longer pulling the weight it once did. In an industry addicted to momentum, their slowdown isn't just noticeable, it's lethal. Meanwhile, back in London, the palace is doing what it's always done best: nothing. The crown doesn't have to fight back, it simply waits. Because without royal access, the couple's glitter starts to look like tinfoil.
You know, if 2 years ago you had asked me if I thought I would ever be sitting here begging people to treat a literal duchess.
What Project Thaw revealed wasn't just a broken relationship with the monarchy, it exposed how fragile their Hollywood throne really is. And when the cameras stop calling in California, there's only one thing left to knock on, and that door has already been sealed shut. When Project Thaw began to crumble, the whispers shifted. If Meghan can't come back, some royal watchers mused, maybe Harry can. It's a seductive narrative, the prodigal prince returning alone, reclaiming his place in the fold, the palace forgiving, the public softening, a headline fit for royal redemption. But behind closed doors, those whispers hit a wall just as hard as Project Thaw did. The truth is painfully simple. The crown doesn't trust Harry. Not anymore. This isn't just about titles, tabloids, or family tensions. This is about credibility. Every time Harry's been given a chance to dial things down, he's done the opposite. Interviews, memoirs, docuseries, sound bites that keep tearing at the very institution he was once part of. One senior aide reportedly summed it up coldly: "There is no solo return. There is no return at all." The monarchy moves slowly, deliberately, and with memory like steel. The betrayal may have been wrapped in media glitz, but inside royal walls, it was personal. And personal wounds don't thaw. They harden. Even if Harry wanted to walk back alone, he'd be walking into a palace that's already decided he doesn't belong there anymore.
Obviously, that's your foundation. And the true leaders with mental health access. Tonight, we're all here together to focus on what we're
Project Thaw was their shot at softening the narrative. Instead, it reminded the monarchy why that door stayed shut in the first place. And now, even the solo prince fairy tale has no place left to land. This is where Project Thaw collapsed completely. Harry and Meghan were playing checkers. The crown was playing chess. While they mapped out a glossy comeback strategy built on staged appearances, the monarchy was quietly doing what it has always done best: thinking beyond them. Because the truth is brutally simple: royalty doesn't live in headlines, it lives in centuries. For Charles and William, this was never about feelings. It was about the survival of an institution that's weathered everything from abdications to divorces to public fury. In that scale of history, the Sussex saga is a mere blip. Noisy, yes, but temporary. Project Thaw operated like it could charm the palace back into softness, but the monarchy doesn't bend for celebrity moments. It waits, it absorbs, and then it erases. While the couple played the media game, William and Charles focused on legacy, the long game. They weren't asking how to make peace, they were deciding how to protect the crown without ever needing Harry and Meghan again. And that's where everything shifted. Because when you're up against an institution built to outlive centuries, you don't get second chances. The door that closed this time isn't made of wood, it's iron, and it won't be opening again. Project Thaw wasn't defeated by one bad headline or a single backlash moment. It was crushed under the weight of an institution that simply doesn't need them. Harry and Meghan played the short game. The crown will still be standing long after the noise fades. And just like that, Project Thaw ended not with a royal handshake, but with a door slamming shut. What began as a carefully spun fairy tale comeback, Paris glamour, soft smiles, staged warmth, ended in a silent, calculated freeze from the very institution they thought they could charm. For Harry and Meghan, this was supposed to be the moment they rebuilt bridges. Instead, it exposed how fragile their footing truly is. The polling collapse, the tunnel backlash, the Hollywood chill, all of it collided at once, and the palace didn't need to lift a finger. It simply waited. Behind the gates, William and Charles moved with quiet precision. No statements, no press wars, no last-minute lifelines. just silence, the kind of silence that tells you the decision isn't temporary, it's permanent. And that's what cuts deepest. Not the noise, the finality. The monarchy doesn't fight messy wars. It outlasts them. It waits as the world moves on. Harry and Meghan may still have the microphones, but the crown has something far more powerful: time. Project Thaw was meant to melt the frost. Instead, it revealed an unshakable truth. The monarchy has moved on, and they won't be looking back. This is Hollywood Daily Reports. If you want to stay locked in as this royal saga continues to crack open, hit subscribe, drop a like, and keep watching. Because if this is how Project Thaw ended, what's coming next might just be colder than anyone expects.